Come have fun with us and don't forget to subscribe.
What's up everybody, I'm Rick.
And I'm Anna, and welcome to our review of the 1935 movie, The Broadway Melody of 1936. For everyone who's new here, hi and welcome. Please subscribe to our channel where we're gonna have a lot of fun together. This channel is dedicated to Rick and my bucket list of goals and dreams that we hope to accomplish in our lifetimes. And one of those goals for us is to watch every movie that was nominated at the Academy Awards for Best Picture from 1927 to 2028. That is 101 years of Academy Awards Best Picture nominees and their respective winners.
Lots of movies.
Lots of movies. And currently we are at the year 1935. To this day we have watched 66 movies as part of this goal, and we have discussed one movie that is not available to us because it's only available at UCLA, and one lost movie, The Patriot.
I'm back on the track, I feel like
No, it's still
I
lost.
got some...
For those of you who don't know how these reviews are going, the first part is going to be a spoiler-free part in which we give some top-level appreciation and commentary on the movie, and the second part is going to be a spoiler-filled part in which we deep dive into certain scenes, certain elements of the movie while spoiling the story. However, don't worry, if you don't want to get spoiled, we will warn you before we get to the spoiler-filled part, and at that moment you can head to the description box below where there's a timestamp that will take you directly to the end of this video where we have a ranking section, because for every year we rank all the nominated movies of that year according to our liking and preferences. But before we get to all of that, let us first see what are some information about this movie in the trivia section.
Okay, Anna, tell me about this movie we watched in 1936 or 35.
Melody of 1936 is an MGM musical film that came out on August 25th, 1935. The movie was directed by Roy Del Ruth, and it stars Jack Benny as Bert Keller, whom we've seen before in the Hollywood Review of 1929, Eleanor Powell as Irene Foster, Robert Taylor as Robert Gordon, Una Merkel as Kitty Corbett, whom we've also seen before in 42nd Street, and Joan Knight as Lillian Brent. The movie was nominated for 3 Academy Awards. First off, Best Picture, or as it was known back then, Outstanding Production, which is why we have watched it and we are reviewing it right now. It was also nominated for Best Writing Original Story for Moss Hart, and Best Dance Direction for Dave Gould for the dance to the song I've Got a Feeling You're Fooling, which it also won.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it got a win.
No music related nomination though, interesting.
As for some interesting fun facts about the movie. So apparently Eleanor Powell was initially casted as Kitty Corbett, which is a non-dancing role, and she was not happy with that, but she didn't want to make a fuss about it or, get punished by the production company for turning down a role.
Yeah.
So she thought if she demands to be, or if she asks to get the lead role and an exorbitant salary, then they would just take the role away from her and just put her on another project. But surprisingly, when she asked for that, they gave it to her. They gave her the main role and a huge salary.
Shoot your shot, you get nothing that you don't ask for.
Exactly. So it turned out in her favor and she ended up having the leading role. And I think she was happy with it because this is also the role that was the stepping stone of her career. Another interesting fact also about Eleanor Powell, the singing voice in the movie was dubbed by Marjorie Lane, who was uncredited.
Oh, so she wasn't the one singing?
She wasn't the one singing. And MGM actually kept Lane on a contract only as a voice double for Eleanor Powell. She dubbed all of her singing parts in a lot of the movies that she played from there on. The idea was that and after this movie, she became kind of like an up-and-coming star, and they wanted to create the image that they have an actress who's like so good. She's like great at dancing. She was great at dancing, but also she can sing beautifully.
Yeah.
Which she didn't actually.
And so they lied about that?
So they lied about that.
Well, that's interesting. I guess you'll come back in our conversation later, but I had some comments about the sound mixing, and that kind of helps make it more sense, but explain some of the things that we're gonna get into.
Okay, I can't wait to see what you gotta say about that. that was it for the information that I had about the movie. So let us now move on to the spoiler-free section.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. So Rick, without spoiling the story, what did you think of this movie?
Before I get into that, while
Okay.
we're still close to that trivia part, this is part of a series, right? Unrelated series of movies called Broadway Melody.
Yeah,
Because I remember we watched the Broadway Melody of 1929 for this
right.
series of movie, and I know there's another one.
There are I think 3 more after this.
Yeah.
Or at least 2, and they wanted to have a third one, but it was cancelled. One of them was cancelled.
Mm-hmm. And so I don't know why call it the year after when it was released.
Yeah,
Was
I
it planned to
wonder.
be released in 1936 and then they changed the date?
I actually don't know. I didn't find anything related to that. I do have maybe an idea of why they might have called it like that, but it involves some spoilers, so we're gonna talk about it in the next
Later?
section.
Okay, yeah.
But I couldn't find any clear information, so I don't know.
Or maybe just because they expected people to watch it in 1936, so they'd feel like it's a new movie. We'll see. We'll talk about your theory later. So what did I think of it? I enjoyed it. It was a fun watch. I was actually very invested, if you could say, in the story.
Yeah, me too. I was actually surprised at how interesting it was.
Yeah.
Like to follow the story of the characters.
Mm-hmm, to just see like, oh, okay, where is this going?
Yeah.
Interesting premise, which, as we watch more and more of these movies, it's harder and harder for something to be totally new, especially because we've seen lots of movies that are inspired by these old movies.
Yeah.
But this is a premise that I thought like, oh, this is original enough. I hadn't seen where the story was going to go. I didn't predict much of it. So that was fun. That was a fun watch, definitely.
So yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I have to say though, for a musical that focuses on like music and dance, I've seen better. Only as part of this goal, I've seen better.
Yeah.
There was one dance that I liked in particular, but for the most part, it was okay. It didn't impress me that much.
So I guess we can get into that right now. The music and the dance numbers, issues with the sound mixing and sound editing,
Okay.
a bit of both, or whichever is responsible. I'm not really sure. I'm not a movie maker. You could often tell when the music starts and when the dialogue ends. And of course, with most musicals, unless you're 2012 Les Mis, it's not recorded as they film. They have the song recorded separately and then they superimpose it. But it's mixed in a way that you don't feel the jarring difference. It doesn't just jump at you like, oh, this is another recording. This is another sound file. Here I could hear it. A lot of time when they transition from talking to singing, you could hear it.
I didn't really pay attention to that. It didn't jump at me, but if you say that it was there, then I'm sure you're right.
Oh, I heard it. And maybe
Okay.
some of the reason for that, I'm trying to think if it happened to everyone or just Eleanor's character. Maybe that's because he was someone else, and so you could kind of tell more. But I feel like even then you could have mixed it in a better way.
I feel like about that, I did feel a difference in her voice, in the sense that what I was hearing when she was talking didn't seem like it was the same voice singing. But I didn't think at the time that it was someone else singing. I just thought that's how they recorded it. Like, it sounds so different. Like the way they recorded the song from like the way she just talks. But then that made sense when I found out that it is actually someone. Maybe like I did hear something a little bit, but not that much. Not as much as you. I didn't focus on it.
Another reason why I thought there might have been an issue with the sound editing though is that whenever they were dancing, and that's something like I'm trying to figure out, is it just me never paying attention to it before, or not being really aware of how they were doing it before, or is it a problem with this movie? When they were dancing, it's tap dancing a lot of times. I feel like it didn't match what we would hear and what they would do. And I'm trying to think, like, in Top Hat, that never jumped at me as an idea. Like, what he's doing doesn't match with the sound. But I never paid that much attention to it. But maybe that's it, If you don't notice it, it's because it's done well. And if I noticed it now,
then it means that maybe there's an issue.
Maybe there was an issue. Because a lot of times I feel like, she's tapping 5 times and you hear pack.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't really notice it that much. But I think it's also because overall just the dancing performances didn't catch my attention so much, so I was kind of like absent 3 just watching it. I was like, okay, now they're dancing.
Yeah.
You know, rather than actually follow through it and like be excited about it.
One thing that I thought was really interesting in terms of like we're talking about visual and sounds. There's a scene towards the beginning where they're dancing, and then a group of dancers, women, do a swirl, and then through the middle of the screen, it's obvious you can see the middle cut there. They superimpose two different scenes next to each other, and so on one side they have a white dress, but then when they pass through the middle, they have a black dress on the other side.
Yeah.
And nowadays you would do that pretty easily with a editing program or with special effects, or whichever method you choose. But it's interesting to think like they wanted to do this and they thought of a way to do it back then.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was impressive to watch. We did talk a lot about the sound, visuals, and all of that. Story-wise, we did mention before. You did mention in the beginning that it was an interesting enough story. Do you have is there anything else that you'd like to mention about the story?
Yeah, like it's simple, but it's different enough, like I said before, that you want to follow it, and it's also the characters.
Yeah.
The characters really kind of make the story because they're interesting enough. Everyone in their own, in their own ways, and they bring something different to the story. That in the end, you're not bored. I was never bored.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I feel like I like the twist that they put into it. It's not too much, but it's enough to make you, have a smile in the corner of my like, huh, that happened, I guess, And I feel like I like how natural it felt, especially when it comes to the relationship between the characters, and the way just the story unravels. It does feel very easy and natural to follow, so I really like that.
I don't feel like the ending was kind of abrupt. It kind of just ends.
I feel like the ending is pretty much implied.
Yeah, but I don't know. I would have liked to see, some type of resolution. Well, we get one scene, but exactly, there's no conclusion. We get to the big, musical number of the third act, and then afterward you would have just, conclusion to the different storylines that we've been having. But no, it just kind of ends with that one scene afterward.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that leaves us with performances.
Well, just like I mentioned earlier, the characters were all interesting enough, and that's because they were played well enough by everyone. Even some of the unimportant characters, everybody else plays it very well. The main actress, who sadly she wasn't performing her own songs.
But they didn't know it back then.
Yeah.
So I guess it worked. What I wanted to say about the main actress is she didn't really impress me that much in the beginning. At the very scene when we see her, I kind of had the feeling that, oh, she's gonna be nah. You know, but as soon as we move on from that, I actually liked her very much. Not so much the character, because I didn't know what the character was gonna be, but I just felt like she's gonna portray her in a very typical way. But I feel like the actress actually put a lot of spice into her character, so it actually ended up being more interesting than it seemed in the beginning. So I like that.
All of the characters have different facets to them. All of our main characters, the three, have different facets to them, which make them more interesting than if they were just that one character trait, and that's what we go in for the rest of the movie.
So I guess this brings us to the end of this section. Would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, I would. I guess final thoughts on it before we get into the spoilers. I would recommend it. I was definitely higher on it before the end. The end kind of deflated me. I was kind of like, okay, that's over. That's it.
Oh boy, what about the rest?
Yeah. But other than that, I thought it was an enjoyable watch.
I feel like it was enjoyable. I obviously don't regret watching it. It was interesting enough, but I don't know if I'd recommend it.
Oh.
I feel like unless your goal is to watch old movies specifically, then I would say, sure, this is a good movie to watch. But if you just want a good recommendation of a 30s musical or a 30s, I don't know, comedy story or a 30s anything else.
There's better. There's definitely better out there.
There's definitely better. So for that reason, I don't know if I'd recommend it. I wouldn't tell anyone don't watch it, but at the same time, if you're looking for a good 30s movie, just look elsewhere. Look at other movies that we've already discussed about on this channel, and you'll get better recommendations.
Yeah, fair.
So that being said, I think now it is time to move on to the spoiler-filled section. Don't forget, if you don't want to get spoiled, you can head to the timestamp in the description box below that will take you directly to the end of this video, to the ranking section. And for those of you who have already watched the movie or don't mind getting spoiled about the story, let us move on to the spoiler-filled section. Let us start this section the way we usually do. I will give you a short synopsis of the movie. Bob Gordon is staging a new Broadway show. He gets an offer of money by Lillian if she can dance in his show. Gordon's old classmate Irene tries to get the leading role in the show, but Lillian insists on getting this part herself.
You know what? It's interesting that the synopsis marks this as being the main plot.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like I felt like it was kind of
in the background.
In the background.
Yeah, that is true.
Like that conflict between Lillian wanting to get the main role was there, but it never really felt like it was that important.
Right.
It was more about this whole thing with the reporter. What I felt was the main plot.
True. So let us get into that first. Like the dynamic between the characters, especially between the main characters, Bob and Irene. What did you think about that?
I thought it was interesting. When I was saying, it's interesting that they have, different facets to them. At first she comes to, meet her high school friend. It's hinted they were more than friends. And is disappointed that he doesn't recognize her. And then the prideful side of her comes into the forefront and she doesn't want to see him again. And I thought it was an interesting way to start the story, because her dream is to make it on Broadway, and it would be very easy for her to just keep pushing at him, which she does afterward, but she has to be convinced to do it.
Yeah.
She's so prideful that she doesn't want to do it at first. And I thought that was an interesting element to add in for the character,
What I thought was interesting about their relationship, or their interaction rather, is the part where he convinces her to give up on trying to get a part, or a role. It felt strange that he was there making his dream come true, meanwhile telling her, baby, it's not worth, just go home.
Yeah, he never really goes that much into details. He says I did it, but it's not what I thought it was, and it's not worth it. You don't want to do this, go home. But he never explains more than that. And actually, he kind of seems happy with his life.
Yeah, he seems like he's totally living his dream.
Yeah,
so.
It's not like spoiler for another movie, 42nd Street. You felt in there that the director, he could have been one to say, don't do this job, this is killing me.
It's not worth
my
it.
doctor is telling me to stop doing this, But here, that wasn't really the case. He felt totally comfortable in his current situation.
Right.
Set aside the problem with the reporters, columnists. Other than that, he kept telling her, this is not worth it, this is not the life you think it is. It seems to me like it is.
Yeah, he was making his new show, getting people coming in to try to get a part in his show, so it was interesting enough.
Hanging out in those fancy balls, You seem to be doing fun for yourself. Why?
It felt a little bit hypocritical, to be honest. It feels like it was kind of put there just because of the story.
Yeah, and at the same time, he was all over the place because he kisses her, he hints at the fact that he wants to be with her, but also sends her back
puts her on a train
to go back to her hometown. What are you doing? What's the angle here? And then he tells her, I'll come see you, I know your address. What are you planning? To move back there too? Or to go see her and then bring her back again?
Yeah, I wonder. How was that gonna happen?
Yeah.
Another thing that I want to talk about is the whole misunderstanding that's been created by the columnists, with them creating a fake persona.
Yeah.
In this, what was her name? Mademoiselle Labelle something, I don't remember. What do you think about that?
I'm of two minds. I thought it's interesting that they use that as a way for our main character to come back and actually be into the show. But then it doesn't lead into anything, she just leaves as soon as she came in.
Yeah.
She just does that one rehearsal.
She also never actually admits to the fact that she was impersonating the French actress.
So that entire part, was a bit anticlimactic for me. And they go in such a roundabout way to have her be back in the show anyway. And also the first part where the columnist's friend is in a hotel pretending to be her for seemingly days. I just thought that was a bit weird and went on for maybe a bit too long.
Yeah.
Logically speaking, how is this even needed or working? Like, if you just wanted to play a prank on Gordon, he didn't have to go through such length. There was never any need to rent a hotel room, dress up as a woman for no reason,
Right.
and then take calls.
I feel like that was my main question in the end, was why? I mean, why did he even invent the persona? Why did he do all of that? Because his goal to begin with, if you remember, was just to get interesting, flashy news.
Story.
Yeah,
Well,
stories.
you know
actually.
what they say, if you don't have a story, make your own.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one thing to like dig up dirt where there really isn't much, and it's another completely different thing to make up a person as if they actually existed and write news about them.
I didn't
You know?
mind that he did that because, the point is always to just sell more paper. You lie, you make up stories.
Yeah, but it feels like he did that because he did that when he found out that the director couldn't find a star. So he was like, oh, he can't find a star, I'm gonna create a star.
Yeah.
Why? Like, what was the end goal? Because it's not like he could have hired that
he,
imaginary star or anything.
he doesn't say clearly, but to me it just seemed like...
He's just
Then-
like trying to stir up things.
Yeah, then he can write about that fake star. Then when nothing leads up to it, he can write about that. If something, like, he can control the story and then keep just
I
writing
see.
sensational stories. I just didn't feel there was a need, like,
To take it that far.
to take it that far.
Yeah,
To rent a hotel room to do all of this.
yeah.
And it was supposed to be funny, I guess, but it wasn't really funny.
I feel like all of these elements were just put there so that they'd be used in the advancement of the main plot, which was the relationship between the two main characters.
Mhm.
So that it would give an in for Irene to get
To come back.
To come back,
Yeah.
exactly.
But I thought that the idea itself was interesting. It kind of reminded me of Lady for a Day. And they could have played with that
Yeah,
a
but-
bit more.
Yeah, I guess they could have done better though, because in Lady for a Day, the plot was like very well.
It was centered
made.
around that
It was-
idea.
yeah.
Here it comes and go, and like I said, it doesn't really need to lead to anything for Irene in the end.
And it really bothered me that in the end they don't even mention it anymore, like that she was the one who actually did the performance as
Yeah.
the French actress. Like the director Bob never even knows
Mhm.
that. So it's like it kind of feels like there was no purpose to it.
Yeah.
I guess those were the main elements that I wanted to talk about. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
Well, you mentioned earlier that you had a theory of why this was 1936.
I don't know if it really makes that much sense, but after I saw the movie, I thought, oh, it's like they're preparing a show that would have like been out next year.
Mm.
So like that was in my head, like they're preparing the Broadway Melody of 1936.
1936. Oh, that could be. Yeah.
That was in my head. I thought maybe that's why it's called of 1936. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Maybe someone in the comment knows why was it
Oh,
called the Broadway Melody of 1936 instead
Let
of
us know.
1935, because the 29 one wasn't 1929.
Yeah. So that being said, that was it for the spoiler field discussion. So let us all now move on to the ranking section of this video. This year, huh?
It's long. It's long.
Long.
It's not
Oh my
over
gosh.
yet.
So the ranking of the 1935 Academy Awards Best Picture nominee movies as of now is at number 10, The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, at number 9, Alice Adams, at number 8, Naughty Marietta, at number 7, Les Miserables, at number 6, Ruggles of Red Gap, at number 5, A Midsummer Night's Dream, at number 4, Top Hat, at number 3, David Copperfield, at number 2, Captain Blood, and at number 1, The Informer. So where would we put Broadway Melody of 1936 on this list? I believe it's my turn to say. I would put it at number
8, which is
above Naughty Marietta, below Les Miserables.
interesting. This is an interesting case because coming into this conversation, and I guess that's why it's so interesting to talk to each other about these movies. I had I had a marginally higher impression of the movie coming into this conversation than coming out of it, because as we talked about it more and more, I was kind of like, yeah, I tend to agree with you on most of the critics you had. So if you had asked me where to put it at the beginning, I probably would have went higher. But now I would tend to agree with you, but I'm thinking, is it above Les Mis? Les Mis is a hard one for me because it just hurts me that they changed so much.
I see.
But yeah, I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna agree with you.
You know what?
there.
Actually, I might change
Oh,
my
you
opinion.
changing your one? Yeah?
I kind of feel like Naughty Marietta was actually better.
Naughty Marietta?
Yeah. Like if you think about it, it also had singing parts, it had comedy, it had a
That's
lot of the
true.
elements that we saw in this movie. But I also feel like it was like a nicer story to follow together, like a more fluid story.
That's true. But Marietta,
I don't know.
it's also kind of forgettable,
Yeah,
Naughty
it
Marietta.
is. Which
But-
is why I feel like it dropped so low on our
Yeah.
list. Because every time I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait, what was that movie about? Oh, yeah.
But now that I think about it, can you honestly say that
This movie
this movie will not be forgettable? It
yeah,
probably is.
I feel so.
Yeah.
I feel like in a few weeks I won't remember clearly what the story was about.
Mm.
And I feel like there are also other movies that came before that we saw, like 42nd Street, which tackled into like similar idea
Yeah.
that were better. So
I mean,
it
even
kind of
even Broadway Melody of 1929,
Yeah.
I remember what the story was,
Yeah.
and I remember liking it more than that.
yeah.
So yeah, no, I'll go with below Naughty Marietta.
Okay.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So that's where we stand right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ranking of the 1935 Academy Awards Best Picture nominees as of now and according to our likings and preferences is: at number 11, The Lives of a Bengal Dancer; at number 10, Alice Adams; at number 9, Broadway Melody of 1936; at number 8, Naughty Marietta; at number 7, Les Miserables; at number 6, Ruggles of Red Gap; at number 5, A Midsummer Night's Dream; at number 4, Top Hat; at number 3, David Copperfield; at number 2, Captain Blood; and at number 1, The Informer.
There you go.
That was it for our review of the 1935 movie Broadway Melody of 1936. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to comment in the comment section below and tell us, why do you think it's called the Broadway Melody of 1936? Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And this channel is not just about watching movies. It's a bucket list channel in which we try to realize the goals and dreams that are on our bucket list. And we have so many different things that we do here: traveling, learning new things, cooking. And we make videos about all of them and we bring them all to you. So if you're curious to follow us through our adventures, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so that you'll be notified next time when we drop a new video. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget, if you have a goal or a dream that you want to accomplish, take that first step.
Bye.